Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome back, everyone. A few episodes ago, we did a group interview with a group of writers who wrote the book Self-Love Elevated. And that book, where we had a few of the 19 women who actually co-authored the book, and which that was going from the notes from the back of the book, again, was about the love and worth you feel for yourself sets the foundation for the types of relationships you have. What you believe is what will be achievable in life. It is embracing all the essences of that make you unique when you feel the internal connection of love for who you are in all of your queen-like beauty inside and out. That is when life changes. Your self-love and worth will help you hold on to yourself accountable in your own life, business, and career. So that was from the back of the book of Self-Love Elevated. But we're going to talk today with the creator of this project, Heather Andrews. She masterminded, she compiled it, she put it together, and she is also the founder of the publishing company that helped release this book to the world. So why don't we give Heather a warm welcome to the show as we find out how she got started in publishing. Heather, welcome back to the show, because the last time we were here, there was like, I don't know, how many of the 19 women were with us?
I think there was like 14 women who attended that interview that day.
Yeah, there was only like a handful of us, a handful of you guys that couldn't make it, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, but why don't we start here? How did you actually get started in publishing to begin with?
It's an interesting journey. I did not say that when I was 8 years old that I was going to have a publishing company. Furthest thing from my mind, because I graduated from a technical school with my medical radiology technologist certificate. Then fast forward 25 years later, I'm in management and I get restructured out of a 13-year career in healthcare management in the private sector here in Alberta, Canada. And I was welcomed to it because I wanted something different. And for as sad as it was, and for all of the things that it led to identity crisis and all of the things, and to figure out who Heather Andrews was, I wanted something different. So I embraced it and I did the work. I wanted to move in a different way, forward in a different way. And when I went to a networking event called Womanition, and that day I was greeted by the lovely owner of that amazing group by the name of Dorothy Briggs. And I met a lot of beautiful, soulful women that day who had been through obstacles in career and obstacles in life. And they really just offered me. And one lady in particular, by the name of Deanne Randrow, had asked me if I wanted to write in a co-authored book, as I had just launched my health coaching company. And I'd always had a business and worked part-time when my kids were little. So it really was a beautiful opening to something totally new. And when that happened, I decided, I went home that day and to my teenage kids, I've been invited to write in this book. What do you think about that? Because visibility, it's their mom. And they said, Mom, go do you. So I wrote in the book. And it was just a very cathartic experience. It was what I needed to release this restructuring that had occurred and this transition that had happened into this world of health coaching. And it launched, 19 Soulful Women in that book too. And it went to number 1 on Amazon. And this is 8 years ago. This is before it's as common as what it is now. So it was a big deal. And the lady out of the UK who had published the book had mentioned to me that she was looking for people to teach publishing too. And I decided to go for this publishing mentorship, and I brought together 19 people, it was 23 people. And in early 2017, about obstacles equaling opportunity, and I coached me to write this compilation with these other people and launched it, and it did really super well. And when people learned that I was able to do this, all of those tools were not available back then. This is 2017. It was CreateSpace, it was clunky, and there wasn't all of the tools and all of the formatting and all of the technology back then that there is today. So when people learned that I published, the people just came out of the woodwork and said, hey, looking to write a book, can you help me? Sure. So I had a team already in place because I had, the lady, the self-publisher out of the UK had said, hey, my team is great, and her team was great. And that's who I started with. And then all of a sudden it started into solo authors. We launched another compilation. We launched What Self-Love Got to Do with It, The Real Empowered Journey of the Mom Boss. And we did What's Money Got to Do with It, What's Balance Got to Do with It, What's Obstacles Equal Opportunities 1, 2, and 3. We did some project management compilations as well, and then we had a bunch of solo people as well. And then I started to get asked to speak. And all the way along, I had plugged into Womanition, which was a working platform, but they had leadership conferences. They had a magazine that we could be featured in here in Alberta for women entrepreneurs. And I started to speak on their stages. And fast forward to today, we've published over 300 authors. I'm a 14-time author, number 1 author on Amazon myself. And over, I think, 50 books, to mention some of the ones that I've coached people on, not the ones that are necessarily under our brand. And then we have, I think 80% of those are 80% of the books that we've published are number 1 bestsellers as well. And fast forward 2 years ago, the license had come up for Womanition for me to run it in my city. And I just so believed in the platform of how it can create success for women in business through connection, culture, all of that. And then I launched that as well. So I have 2 companies now. and there's been some very cool collaborative partnerships come out of these connections. And we also have just recently launched taking everything that I know about publishing and our team of editors, graphic designers, formatters, proofreaders, all of that team, and the marketing strategists as well. I have now decided to write my own book, but I didn't want to do it alone. So I decided to launch Empire Authors Academy, and now just taking applications for that. And it's going to be that concept to publishing with everything in between, so the person lands up with their tangible book at the end of it. And that's really the journey. It's been all about just serving the people, helping them get their dreams and their stories out there. And I know that everybody's walking a little differently, because when you publish and you write your story and you share it, it becomes a spiritual journey as well as a transformational cathartic process.
Yeah. I've heard that from a number of authors that we've interviewed. How just getting it out there onto the page, and of course, many younger people are like, "Oh no, we don't use we type it in, we keyboard it in." Well, I still when I write an article or something like that, I scribble it down on a piece of paper and then transfer it onto the keyboard, right? But it's that process. It opens up the creativity inside of us, right?
Yeah, and believe that readers want raw and real. And anybody that I ever ask, why do you want to write this? Well, I have this, this universal experience, but it's my own unique experience, and how I through this universal, there's things that are universal, like divorce, like job loss, like there's just so many things that are universal. But
yeah.
the biggest piece is that everybody's unique experience is just that. And so I might have related one horror story or one story where I was looking after my mom, but I might not have been able to relate to somebody else's because it was different than my own.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and that's really like any divorce that I ever knew was messy. Mine wasn't. Mine was clean. Mine was just amicable. Mine was very amicable. I said I didn't want to be there anymore, and of course he was hurt, but he didn't block me in any way from moving on. In fact, he's getting married next weekend. So,
Wow.
and I sent him best wishes. I said, I wish you all the very best. I wish that I hope she didn't do more better than I did. Right?
Oh, gee.
And, or in a different way or something. Like, I lead from a place of love because and only so many people can relate to that.
Yeah. Well,
and I was inspired by my friend's husband, who was the one who coached me to go this route because it was how him and his wife did it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was his unique experience and perspective how I had success in that realm.
Yeah, I can tell you right now that my divorces were messy. One had a contempt of court charge in it, all kinds of
sounds like I should be interviewing you.
stuff with that one, right? It's like, but we all have our own story, and one thing that we both, because we both work with stories, is how do you present that story so that it inspires the next person?
I think it has to come from a space of empowerment and victory and gratitude and forgiveness. And having said that, one of the first questions that I always ask is, what is your vision? What is it that you wish for your reader to take away from your story? Mm-hmm. And their answer always usually is, well, I'm grateful for my experience. I just want, someone to know that they're not alone. I want to know that there's, a light at the end of the tunnel, and I want to be just share that how I moved through it. And so I come from that space of empowerment and with no fear. And a lot of times people come to me where they are ready to share, but there's still those little crinkles of shame, or those little crinkles of hurt, or those little pieces that, they might have a tear as they're typing up their story or writing their story. But maybe those are the pieces that need to be shared the most, because those are the pieces that the person needs to release to create that new space for the things that are coming for them, and for them to write what the reader needs to read. And I always ask also 4 questions when we're doing the upfront coaching as they're getting going. And we do almost like what transformation do you as the author want to have? What transformation do you as the reader what do you want for your reader? What do you want for your business if you have a business? What transformation do you want for the world to read your book, right? And when you come at that perspective of it, and you actually go back and reread your answers, it's amazing how that shifts the energy to the author's job really is to entertain the reader, solve a problem for the reader, help them escape through a fiction book or just education. And so we just have to figure out what that role is for that author and their reader. And that's kind of how we do it. In fiction and in nonfiction, a lot of it is really around story. And sometimes we have to go back and say, we take the decades of their life and we do the highlight reel, or those defining moments of the good, the great, the icky, and really put it in a space of, okay, what have you overcome and what have you conquered to be where you are today? Because some of us, we move through the motions, but we never actually turn back and go, oh, wow, okay, look at the whirlwind that just happened. And that was literally my 3 years. Like, the last 3 years have been just, oh my Lord, like if anything was the top 10 stressors all put into the last 3 years, it was the last 3 years for me. But what I face now is nothing compared to that. And that's how I've dialogued it, because there's still a lot of work to do, because we're still, there was some stuff that happened in COVID, and, that's why we've launched a new academy, and that's why we've kind of taken a little bit of a turn, because when we lost our event, there was money lost. So we have to, and there was clients that didn't get to share, and there was all these things. So You have to pivot with time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really around, like, authors might have, lost, number 1 bestseller, or they, or prepared to write, or they had other things. So that's why we sort of had to do things a little differently, even in my company. And that's where, but this next 3 years is going to be so fun, because I've got not all figured out, but I've got it planned. And of course, it's going to be hiccups and rights and stuff, but when I look at it, I'm excited, because I've learned a lot of lessons in the last 3 years, and even the first, 5 years in business before that.
Yeah.
So it'd be a totally different road that's going to uncover, or, that's going to occur for us, because of just all the lessons and the teachings and the evolution of Get You Visible and We Own Womanition. And then starting at this Empire's Authors Academy, it's taking everything that I know and rolling it into this beautiful community of authors that are just gonna rock.
Yeah, it sounds exciting. You create brands like I create podcasts, though.
Yeah, and a lot of times people can,
kind of right?
build a brand around their, and that's the beautiful part of it, because you need these things. You need to know how to podcast. You need to know how to speak. You need to know how to write a book. You need to have that book or that visibility component. And you need to know how to tell your story. It doesn't matter what business you are in. You have to be able to tell your story.
And see, bottom line, that's it, right? We have to be able to tell that story because someone needs to hear that story, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I talk about it, Michael, in the space of relatability. And relatability, it's like when you can share a story, like you're going to take your top 10 stories, or those, you want to be a master storyteller, and those are the businesses that are going to survive this next this next decade. I don't know. There's a quote out there in the business world, and I don't know who said it, but if you become a master storyteller, you will survive because it is the next greatest asset that you can have. And I believe that because when you share a story about child, self, some scenario in your world, you're opening up your heart and you're opening up that dialogue space. And people have been connecting over stories for years. It's incredible. And that's how knowledge has been handed down through the generations. That's how knowledge has been shared, is all through story and teaching, because it holds your attention versus not.
Okay.
And it's creating that relatability and that vulnerability. And when people feel that from you, they will relate to you more and they will trust you more as well.
Right. Because the story is important. It's like, as you said, the idea of telling stories goes back thousands of years to when we were still in the caves. Right? So
hieroglyphics.
Yeah. Even if you look at some ancient dances, right, it's telling the story of how they tracked down the big game and brought it home for all of us to feast, right?
Exactly.
But what are some of your favorite stories that you've captured?
There's been so many. I think Brittany Hamilton, who was a part of our interview and what self-love got to do with it. Orange wasn't her color. and that one, when I talked to her when she faced her 12 to 24 years before the judge, and I'm not going to unravel any of this because you have to buy what Self-Love Elevated to read her story. But all of them, like there's just been many stories. Hers was one that really riveted my heart.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't make that up even if you had tried what happened to her. But she's such, and just the dynamic of how everything unraveled for her, and 3 little girls now, and just it's such a great story. Yeah. But when I watch her journey, she has really stepped into sharing this piece of her story about facing the judge for 12 to 24 in her early 20s based on a situation that happened. And, and she's like, how do you tell your kids? How do you tell your kids the things that have happened when you were in your 20s? And it's just a really awesome story. Dr. Erin Oxall is another one. She came to me in my first book. And she was, I think her chapter was "I'm Too Pretty to Be in Jail," and hers was about her fear around people finding out her addiction. And now she's an internationally renowned speaker. Yeah. And business is growing so much, and she's a voice, and her mission is to free the cow. That's what she's, that's what her mission is, and she's got a beautiful message. And so I really encourage you to go out her book, Mind Your Own Business. It is one of the best reads, and she's a doctor of psychology, and she just looks at psychology so differently. And so I'm really proud of her for what she's done. And one of the other stories that got me was Marsha O'Malley that wrote in What Self-Love Got to Do with It. One, because her little baby died of SIDS. Oh. But she got charged with murder. And that was her baby. She went in and her headshot was on the 6 o'clock news. And when she got the book, she didn't go to jail. She was let off, but because her baby passed, they figured that but the baby died of natural causes. And going back like 4 years ago, and she kept this secret until she released it in What Self-Love Got to Do with It, Volume 1. And when I think of her, she literally took the book, and I asked her to do a Facebook Live when she opened the book, because I knew it was going to have this release for her. And she said, it's time that people read this. And she was a spokesperson for, children with disabilities, or parents after this. And she went on to have another child. And it's a great read. And there's just so many stories, but I think some of them have just been how the book has traveled as well. There's just story after story, because the book creates its own energy. It creates its own path in some ways because of the path of the human. And different authors write for different reasons. Sean Tyler Foley's book, he wanted to speak on stage with Tony Robbins. He's a friend of mine here from my city. And he wrote The Power to Speak Naked. And, and he said, I've got this book all done, but I need to get it out. And I said, good, let's just get it out then. So we pulled together the book cover, and he did the ebook #1 best-selling strategy. And then in a few years later, he landed up getting picked up by Morgan Chase. So now it's actually in the stores. And it's just, and through Sean Tyler, I met Michael Harris. Michael Harris is number one podcaster on Podmatch. He was a year and some ago, and now he has collaborated with me to help me with Empire's Authors Academy. He's an author, business owner, podcast, and all of it. So, it's just the evolution of the connections and the communities that are built. This power of publishing and story and connection, just wanting to do better in the world and help lives change, and being that influencer and that impact. And when I talk about story as well, like for myself, I just did a Met talk this past week about the 3 secrets to creating an abundant story. And it was around relatability and relevance and resources, and you being the resource at the end when you walk the process of sharing your story. But it was more than that, because a lot of times we think of bad events keeping us stuck, but one incident I used as an example, it was around perspective, the perspective of your story. And it's, I got on a plane to Saudi Arabia to leave a bad marriage when I was 23. And then, in the next 6 months, I'm traveling the globe to Egypt and Jordan and Nepal and Dubai, and I wouldn't have ever got that if I hadn't taken action and made a different decision to get out of something that wasn't serving me. And I wouldn't if I'd stayed in that marriage, I wouldn't be here today. I can say that with absolute guarantee. And so the story that you tell yourself or you share, you can say it from a place of the scar, like raw, right? Like I made a different decision and I got out, or I walked this and this is what happened, not from that victim or wounded standpoint, because there's a strength in when you shift your story with a different perspective, that you walk a little taller, and that's that transformational cathartic process. And when people realize you are an author, whether it be a chapter or a solo book, people are proud that you did that. And even though the self-publishing has taken off, and there's there's over 800,000 books, self-publishing books being done every year, you're still an author, and you still took the time to write this book. And that's the thing, when people come to us, I kind of like just take them in the palm of my hand and I bring them in, because this is their story that they're trusting with us.
Yeah.
And we edit it and we put a beautiful cover to it, and it's quality, because I want them to hold that power of being proud of what their story is.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like a place of humility that I want to serve you as best I possibly can because,
Yep.
yeah.
A lot of times too, people say, I've written a book, I had it edited, but they completely changed my voice. And I'm like, no,
Well,
no, no. Like,
yeah.
it happens, but it shouldn't.
Yeah,
And
it does actually happen, yes. Hmm.
it happens probably more often than what we think. But there is, you have to honor the author.
Hmm.
And that's why with us, the author is working one-to-one directly with our editors. And most of the time they will have talked to our authors. And one of our strengths is that we had a client publish 2 books with larger companies, and they were like, but I had to talk to someone overseas at 3 a.m. Why can't I just have you, who's like physically boots around, and I can see you. I can shake your hand. I can go to your conferences. So there's that global essence, and then there's that personal touch is still hugely important. And despite the fact that we are running a group program in the Author Academy, people are still going to have
Hmm.
they're going to have one-to-one attention.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I was basically asked if I'd been Walmart or Holt Renfrew, and I said we are going to be Holt Renfrew because people are important to me, and
Yeah.
I want them to feel valued, and they're not just another number with us.
Yeah.
Because we are, but
Yeah.
because we're creating this book that's going to change their life.
Yeah. For those of you who are listening in the United States that don't know who Holt Renfrew is, think of Neiman Marcus, please.
Thank you for that. Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, references are important.
Yeah.
And I understand a lot of that because we're in the film industry or right? And when somebody comes with those pages, or they just want to tell that story, and you sit them down in front of the camera, and you push the record button, it's like it's no longer about you, it's about them. You
Yeah.
know, and it's good to hear that a published author like you has a process to go along with this. So
Yeah. Yeah, and it might not necessarily be some days as finessed as what it should be, but you can't put someone in a box.
Mhm.
Like, we have our system, and we
Right.
have our procedures that we follow, and different people come to us for with different needs. But for the most part, it's write, edit, book cover, strategy, show up, visibility. Those are kind of the 6. But there's also those ones that need ghostwriting. There's also those ones that might be further along in the process, or they've got their manuscript done, but now they need the marketing piece. So how do we get them there? Or they've been through a self-publish, but they want to relaunch their book, but they need to change a couple things because a few things have changed. So there's all of these things, and people ask me all the time, like, what is your niche? And I'm like, I help authors write and publish their best-selling book. What we do. However, am I a legacy maker? Darn straight I am. Because we've got a 90-year-old lady right now who was a celebrity. She loved working with kids, and she had a kids show. She hosted the kids show many years ago. And she has a beautiful children's book that she's doing with us right now. And she is just as cute as a button. And she said, I just want little kids to know that they have this superpower within them, and it's their breath. And so she's got this, she did a whole little video with me, and she just said it so beautifully. And her book is being illustrated as we speak with the copy being edited, and that one will probably release, I think, in November. And it's like my big brother has a superpower or something like that, and it's just about breathing, and it's just the cutest little thing. He comes home and he's got this new little sister, and he's like, "What do I do with this little sister?" And he realized that when he breathed in deep, he had this beautiful experience, and he was like, "I feel so much better." And and this book is going to be a legacy piece for her family. And
Yeah.
she's just watching her when she saw the illustration. And so it's really never too late to live out a dream. And so it's just such a beautiful it almost when I saw her reaction, it brought huge tears to my eyes, because I was like, this is to be modeled, this is to be captured, this is her essence,
Yeah.
and it's going to live on. And so there's just so many aspects to what we do. And when I see somebody get up and speak for the first time, because we've coached them to their story, and they get up on stage and share it, and they just share it with such eloquency, or they podcast their story and they're so proud, it's like watching your kids on the stage, because my son plays in a band, and I remember, and I've watched them for 14 years evolve, or I hear my daughter talk about her first day of teaching, because she just graduated with 3 and for teaching, and she's already taught it. She's got a full-time job going into September, and you hear what the people say, and you go, awesome.
Yeah.
We helped them.
Yeah.
We guided them. And it's not about me, it's about them. And maybe that's the healthcare worker in me, because it's never been about me. It's always been about the sick patient who I needed to serve. Yeah. And that's really what we're about here.
Yeah.
Get You Visible and the Premonition and the Academy, and that's what we do. We serve.
Yeah. So, how to put this? Because it is all about service ultimately, right? What are some of the things that you in the end get out of it? That
for
that
me,
just helps keep pushing you.
For me, I want my vision for my life is to speak and really shift people's perspective from a space of, that story holding them back, and showing what's possible when you persevere and you have the staying power. I could have quit this business like 10 times, but I see the shift in people, and I see how they go out and shine their light. And I want to speak. That's my goal. I just want to speak and help people come into this space. And I want to have a team that's working within their zone of genius, so they can be a better mom, they can just have the life that they want. And then in turn, the people that are hiring us to help them write their books or share their stories or come into that space of vulnerability, and just really create that unification of like-minded individuals for better community, and be role models for our kids, because it's our children that are our future. And I really want them to understand, there's wisdom within me old people, because I'm 53, and and I just the world has changed, and I get that. But at the end of the day, it's a revenue stream for this person. It's showing them what they can create. It's showing what power of connection can do, and collaboration. And when you bring and you create this platform of people who are just there for the common good, the world shifts. Seen it, I've witnessed it. And I've witnessed people coming together in collaborative spaces and holding events which have changed women's lives or men's lives for that matter.
Yeah.
I see the humanity coming back to people because that rawness and that ability to share is there. I mean, maybe some of this is a little bit idealistic, but I know from a healthcare perspective, the world's hurting. We've got more overdoses, more mental health, our children post-COVID. And how do we makeshift this? We have to bring the masses together. We have to share the stories. We have to share the tools to get people through this. And so whether it be books, podcasts, audiobooks, video content, social media, and people follow you, like whatever that is, it's kind of like the hope factor, like, and what lights me up is when somebody says, when people come up to me and they say, like, thank you for sharing that. Like the other night on that summit, the lady's like, we live in a pretty positive, home, but it's me that's preaching it. And my 2 daughters sat here and watched you. And it was great that it came from a different perspective. Because she said it made it, like having someone like you say it. And I'm like her. I'm a mom. I've got kids, but God graced me with this business, and he just put in front of me these things that I'm just going out and making a difference. But to have her tell me that her daughters listened to that and they walked away with, okay, Mom, right, thank you, that it means that you're making a difference.
Yeah.
And if those two girls can go and share something with their friends about what they heard or what they read or what their mom said in a different light, then my work is done in that space. And that's really what I'm here to do, to help shift people into the story of what they
Yeah. That's pretty amazing, to be totally honest with you. Pretty damn amazing.
Thank you.
So we are starting to run out of time, though.
That's fine.
So you partly answered my last question to you.
Okay.
What would the perfect or the most beautiful world look like to you? And you already partly described that. So keep going. Finish it off. What does that world look like?
Look like? What does that world look like? My desire for everyone is just to know that when they love themselves and they can step into that space and not rely on the likes on Facebook to fuel their self-worth, right? But really, like, take those tools and really look within and know that you matter, your story matters. You were put on this earth to have relevance because your relevance is you were put here, right? And it was like, you have a unique experience, you have all of that brilliance in you. And people's upbringings weren't the very best. I've seen it. But at the same point, there's people out there that have overcome. And if you just follow or latch on, or, and you find hope within a space or a community, they will take you in and they will just love on you so that you can heal. And just really know that there is healing and you do move through processes and life is better after a mishap of some description. And really, it's just, I want our kids to be healthy. That's really what I want. I want homelessness to go away, and I want mental health reduced, and I want just people to have the tools and the resources in whatever capacity that is, so that they can heal and that they can know that there is better out there for them, and that somebody, and they're whole, right? they themselves are a whole human. And, and that goes back into our addictions and it goes back into addictions. And because nobody ever wanted to be raised like when they were born and say, I want to be an addict. It's that journey along the way, right? And break the generational trauma and be more aware and be more self-aware and come at things from a space of love.
Yeah.
And everybody will ripple because of that.
Yeah.
And that inclusion, and it really just acceptance of people in their space. Mm-hmm. Because we've all got a heart. We've all got a soul. We're all brilliant. It's just some of the things that have happened to us that kind of cover that sometimes.
Yeah. Best ways to get a hold of you.
www.empireauthorsacademy.com or www.getyouvisible.com.
Awesome. Heather, it's been a pleasure again, and I look forward to doing more work with you. So
I look to you as well, Michael, and I'm just so glad that Helena Smolik introduced us, because I just see such good things with you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody,
for listening.
For today. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for listening today, and please find that subscribe button wherever it may be on your screen so you can get more amazing and inspiring stories from us. Thanks again, Heather.
Thank you.
Help us to
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.